So it looked like JuJu Watkins' Nike deal, from what I'm hearing, it's worth way more than Kate.
Nike just pulled a move that has fans scratching their heads and blowing up online. Caitlin Clark, the face of women's basketball in just her second year, gets sidelined while JuJu Watkins walks away with a massive $30 million deal. The reaction? Outrage. The questions? Even louder. Did Nike just fumble the bag with Clark, and will they end up regretting it?
Boots on the ground, people behind the scenes is letting it be known that JuJu Watkins has landed a major damn payday from Nike.
Let's set the scene. Caitlin Clark has been the walking headline factory for women's basketball ever since she was torching teams at Iowa. She packed college arenas like they were NBA playoff games. She pulled TV ratings that made some NBA regular season matchups look embarrassing. And she single-handedly dragged the WNBA into must-watch territory for people who hadn't cared in decades. So what does Nike do? They basically pat her on the back and say, "Thanks, Caitlin, but here's JuJu."
When it comes to Rich Paul, he's a juggernaut. Now, he's going to make sure his players get special whistles. He's going to make sure they get the most money. And he's definitely going to make sure they remain popping, bro. So me personally, I believe, from what I'm hearing, that JuJu Watkins has landed upwards of $30+ million from Nike for a major shoe deal.
Now, let's be clear, this isn't some cheap shot at JuJu Watkins. The kid is the real deal. She's got the skill set, the swagger, and the highlight plays that scream superstar potential. And let's not ignore the clutch sports factor. When you've got Rich Paul and LeBron James in your corner, you're not signing for scraps. That's like having a cheat code in the sports marketing game. Don't forget to subscribe for more fever breakdowns, WNBA updates, and daily hoops talk. Only here on Celeb Zone Daily.
I was listening to Rich Paul say it was the biggest shoe deal since Zion. That's crazy. Have you done anything? Have you splashed out with any of the money?
No. I try to be very smart, but yeah, just super grateful for the opportunity.
But here's the thing. Fans aren't mad at JuJu's payday. They're mad at Nike. The outrage is about how the swoosh just brushed aside the one player who literally dragged women's basketball back into the spotlight. Caitlin Clark has been with Nike since Iowa, back when she was selling out college gyms like they were NBA arenas. Everyone assumed that deal was just the beginning, the start of something historic once she hit the pros. And yeah, $28 million sounded massive back then. Biggest shoe deal in women's basketball history, right? But fast forward 2 years, and suddenly Nike's treating her like yesterday's headline, while handing the crown to a player who hasn't even finished her college chapter yet.
Does your shoe deal prove that women's sport is every bit as popular as men's sport these days?
I don't know. I don't think that's really up to me to answer, but like I said, just super grateful for everything, and the women's game is definitely headed in the right direction.
And this goes way beyond the dollar signs. Sure, Caitlin's $28 million deal sounded massive on paper, but here's the real issue. Where's the rollout? Where's the Caitlin Clark signature shoe? Where are the commercials, the billboards, the "this is the face of Nike women's basketball" campaigns? Fans got nothing. Zero. Crickets. No sneakers on shelves. No flashy marketing push. It honestly feels like Nike just signed her to keep her off the market, to make sure no other brand could grab her, and then shoved her to the end of the bench.
JuJu Watkins just signed a multi-year contract extension with Nike that'll give her one of the richest shoe endorsement deals in women's basketball. Nike officials finished discussions today on the deal with negotiations led by Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul and Watkins' team. JuJu originally signed with Nike as a high school senior back in October 2022, and now coming off a season after becoming the all-time leading scorer among freshmen in NCAA Division I basketball history, she continues to make history by securing one of the richest endorsement deals for a female athlete.
Meanwhile, JuJu's deal leaks, and suddenly Rich Paul is out here calling it the biggest since Zion. Think about that for a second. Zion Williamson landed $75 million with Jordan Brand before he ever touched an NBA floor. And now Nike is putting JuJu Watkins in that same conversation, while Caitlin Clark, the actual ratings magnet, the actual attendance driver, the face of the women's game, is still waiting for her first signature shoe to even drop. Literally, fans aren't buying it. Social media has been chaotic since the news broke. People are asking the obvious. How does Nike overlook Caitlin Clark, the one player who single-handedly moves the needle for the WNBA. Ticket sales follow her. TV ratings spike when she plays. Merch disappears the second her name is attached. That's not hype, that's data. And yet Nike, a brand built on chasing cultural impact, is acting like they don't see it. Now, the Clutch Sports angle can't be ignored here. JuJu signing with Rich Paul is basically the golden ticket. Clutch doesn't just negotiate contracts, they manufacture stardom. Covers, podcasts, red carpets, prime placements. They'll put JuJu in the spotlight before she even makes her WNBA debut. And honestly, that's not a knock on JuJu. She's a killer talent. It's smart business. But it leaves Caitlyn fans asking the real question. Why didn't she have that same machine behind her? Clark went with a traditional agency, and you can see the difference. Nike felt no urgency to give her the Zion-level treatment because her reps weren't banging the table the way Clutch does. Rich Paul doesn't accept wait and see. If he wants $30 million, he's getting $30 million. Caitlyn's camp, meanwhile, assumed her on-court dominance would naturally translate into off-court support. Well, now we see how that worked out. The timing couldn't be worse either. The WNBA has been living off constant drama. Angel Reese's antics, Natasha Cloud's meltdowns, the endless debate over protecting Caitlyn. And right in the middle of all that, Nike basically pours gasoline on the fire by saying, yeah, we see the buzz Caitlyn brings, but JuJu's the one we're really betting on. If the goal was to make fans feel ignored, congratulations, mission accomplished. Let's rewind. Caitlyn Clark's WNBA debut was the golden ticket. 20 points, sold-out arena, millions watching, ESPN foaming at the mouth. That was the perfect moment for Nike to drop her signature shoe, to plant the flag, to say, this is the face of women's basketball. Instead, silence. Nothing. Wasted momentum. And when you stack that against how Nike treated its NBA stars, it gets laughable. LeBron had a full-blown Chosen One campaign before his first NBA tip-off. His signature shoe was ready from day one. Zion. Same story. But Caitlyn? Year 2. No shoes. No rollout. Just a number on a press release that suddenly looks a whole lot smaller next to JuJu's $30 million. Nike's message here is crystal clear. Caitlyn's value is meh. And that's insane. That's like Apple selling out of the first iPhone, then deciding the iPod is the future and putting all their marketing muscle there. Make it make sense. Fans are angry because they see this for what it is, politics. JuJu has the clutch machine. Caitlyn has Nike dragging its feet. And the WNBA can't afford this nonsense. The league doesn't have a deep bench of marketable stars. They have one generational draw. One player who fills arenas, moves TV deals, and drags casual fans into the fold. And Nike just told her, you're not our priority. That's not just bad business. That's a mistake the entire league could end up paying for. And now comes the fallout. Fans aren't just mad. They're already throwing around the nuclear option. Should Caitlyn leave Nike? Think about that. 2 years into her pro career, and people are literally begging her to ditch the biggest sports brand on the planet because they refuse to treat her like the superstar she is. Adidas, Under Armour, Puma, every single one of them would crawl through broken glass to have Caitlyn Clark as their centerpiece. Nike had her first, and somehow, they're fumbling her away like a botched fast break. And here's the kicker. Nike really thought they could sneak past people, as if fans aren't watching the games. As if nobody notices who's actually carrying the WNBA right now. Caitlyn Clark is in the league. Ratings jump when she plays. Ticket sales explode when she's on the schedule. Merch sells out when her name is on it. That's not hype, that's hard data. Yet Nike turns around and says, nah, let's bet on someone else. That's not just a questionable business call. That's spitting in the face of the exact fans keeping the lights on. The funniest part? Fans immediately connected the dots. Nobody even hesitated. This has Clutch Sports written all over it. They said it out loud. JuJu Watkins is in Rich Paul's camp. LeBron's orbit. And Nike and LeBron? That's peanut butter and jelly. Of course the suits in the boardroom love that. But out in the real world, the people who actually buy the shoes, wear the jerseys, watch the games, they don't care who signed with what agency. They know the obvious truth. Caitlyn Clark should have been the face. Period. And let's not ignore where Nike is right now. Their stock has been shaky. Their sales aren't what they used to be. Competitors are eating into their market by moving faster, connecting better, and actually listening to fans. So what does Nike do? They double down on politics instead of cashing in on the one player who literally prints money for them. They alienate the exact audience that's been pumping life into women's basketball this year. That's not a strategy. That's self-sabotage. And this isn't new behavior. Nike has a history of trying to handpick who the next chosen one should be. Not always the best player. Not always the one fans are screaming for. The one that fits their image. They did it in the past, and most of the time fans saw right through it. This is just the latest example, except the spotlight is brighter and the timing is worse. Caitlin Clark is dominating headlines, breaking attendance records, driving TV deals, and Nike is out here pretending she's a side character. And while JuJu Watkins is crazy talented, let's be real, she hasn't even played a WNBA game yet. She hasn't been tested under the pressure Caitlin has already lived through. The road crowds, the jealousy, the hacks on the court, the non-stop media circus. Caitlin's dealt with all of it and still delivered. Nike skipping her in favor of an unproven rookie? That tells you everything about their priorities. But here's where it really backfires. Instead of building excitement for JuJu, Nike just put a giant target on her back. Every missed shot, every off night, every stumble is now going to be compared to Caitlin Clark. That's not fair to JuJu. It's a setup. Nike created this shadow for her to play under, and it's a heavy one. Meanwhile, Caitlin doesn't lose a thing. If anything, this just makes her even bigger. Her fans are rallying harder, doubling down, saying, "Fine, if Nike won't back her, we will." And you better believe other brands are circling. Adidas, Puma, Under Armour, they smell blood in the water. Nike cracked the door wide open for somebody else to swoop in and make Caitlin the centerpiece of their entire women's basketball strategy. Imagine the headlines if Adidas snatches her up after Nike bungled this badly. That's marketing gold. And don't forget the WNBA itself. The league doesn't exactly come out looking good here either. This is a league where players literally voted Caitlin Clark ninth among guards in all-star voting out of sheer jealousy. Now Nike skipping over her for this deal just feeds that same narrative, that the establishment is trying to hold her back. And whether it's true or not almost doesn't matter. Once fans believe their favorite is being targeted, it becomes gospel. They don't just tweet, they mobilize. So the question now is bigger than Nike. It's about the WNBA too. Do they actually want to grow this game? Or are they too busy playing politics? Because if the goal really is to grow the WNBA, then Caitlin Clark should be the first, second, and third priority. She's the one breaking records. She's the one filling arenas. She's the one yanking TV ratings out of the basement and putting women's basketball in conversations it's never been in before. And yet, somehow, every move the league and its partners make feels like they're trying to downplay her. If that's strategy, it's one of the dumbest business decisions in sports history. This isn't the NBA, where superstars are born every other season. The WNBA has been starving for mainstream attention for decades. Now they finally have someone who moves the needle, and instead of doubling down on her momentum, they're playing politics. It's almost like proving a point is more important to them than making money. And for a league that desperately needs revenue, that's insane. So let's fast forward. What happens if Caitlin Clark keeps leveling up? Keep breaking more records? Keeps pulling in millions of fans who weren't even watching women's basketball before? At some point, Nike is going to realize they played themselves. They'll come crawling back with a campaign, trying to plaster her face everywhere, and by then it could be too late. Because if Adidas, Puma, or Under Armour swoop in and make Caitlin their centerpiece, Nike will be left explaining how they fumbled the biggest star the women's game has ever had. And here's the truth. All of this comes down to one word: jealousy. Players are jealous of Caitlin. Agents jealous of her spotlight. Brands are jealous that she became a superstar outside of their control. And jealousy always breeds bad decisions. That's what we're watching right now. Nike had the easiest slam dunk in the world and somehow tripped over their own shoelaces. The WNBA looks petty. Caitlin Clark? She walks out of this mess stronger than ever. Funny how that works. The very people who should be building her up are actually making her more popular by trying to push her down. And if you don't see the irony in that, you're not paying attention.